the intent, implementation and impact of a unit of work on ball skills and games in physical education. Today, the benefits of leading an active lifestyle and the health consequences of being physically sedentary are widely known. These outcomes extend to children, and there is strong evidence that regular physical activity is associated with numerous health benefits for children. In fact, UK Chief Medical Officers recommend that all children and young people should engage in moderate to vigorous intensity physical activity for at least 60 minutes every day. When taught effectively, PE can majorly impact children's physical literacy, which Whitehead and Murdoch recognise as the motivation, confidence, physical competence, understanding and knowledge to maintain physical activity at an individually appropriate level throughout life. The outcomes of physical education and sport for children can be broken down into 5 domains. These domains regard the physical, lifestyle, affective, social and cognitive development of children. They demonstrate how physical education in school regards more than simply the body. It is a holistic educational experience that can have far-reaching positive influences to a child's development and education. The health benefits of regular activity are well established and are inherently linked to longer and better quality of life, both physically and mentally. Research also suggests that increased time for physical activity in school can improve children's academic performance and be a hub of positive social development. These positive health-related behaviours learned in childhood can often be carried through to adulthood, which suggests that physical education can greatly influence the next generation to lead physically active and healthier lives. Physical education in school is the main societal institution for the provision of physical activity in children, so there is a duty for teachers to acknowledge the value of physical education and make space in the curriculum for quality programmes. The national curriculum aims that all pupils develop competence to excel in a broad range of physical activities, are physically active for sustained periods of time, engage in competitive sports and activities, and lead healthy active lives. Despite the benefits stemming from effective physical education, it is often the case that pupils become disengaged, embarrassed, or unwilling to participate. This may be because they have not been taught fundamental movement skills properly before being introduced to sport. In maths, pupils would not be expected to multiply before they can count. So likewise in PE, they should not be expected to compete in sport before mastering the fundamentals. This is supported by Jane Clark, who stresses the need to nurture, promote and practice motor skills to give children the tools to participate in a wide range of physical activities. The national curriculum also substantiates the importance of fundamental movement skills, stating that they should be developed in Key Stage 1. Graham agrees that the ideal time to learn fundamental movement skills is when children are young. Once fundamental movement skills have been learnt, they are retained for a lifetime. The midterm focus for my Year 2 class was to develop pupils' fundamental movement skills, specifically in regards to ball skills and games. I intended to create a plan that would help children gain enough skills to participate enjoyably in many activities, not just a few traditional sports. I needed to explore the fundamental skills that are needed to participate in a range of ball games and consider ways that I could teach them in a fun and accessible way. To provide high-quality physical education teaching, I understood that I needed to devise well-paced lessons that challenged pupils physically and mentally. I also needed to have exceptional subject knowledge so that I could offer constructive feedback that would further extend pupils' learning. I was influenced by Graham's skill theme and movement pedagogy, which supports building fundamental movement skills such as running, jumping, throwing and catching. The main goal in the skill theme approach is to provide children with the competence and confidence to become and remain physically active for a lifetime. My Year 2 class had completed prior learning of non-manipulative and locomotor movement skills, such as balance, running, skipping, rolling and stretching, which gave them a good foundation to progress to a new skill theme. So I decided to focus on the manipulative skill themes of throwing and catching. By focusing on learning and practicing skills rather than on the rules or structure of a sport, I would be able to dramatically increase the amount of practice the children received, thereby heightening their opportunities to learn the fundamental movement skills of throwing and catching. The benefit of the skill theme approach is that children will be able to utilise the skill of throwing and catching in many different sporting contexts when they approached upper Key Stage 2, Key Stage 3 and beyond, such as netball, rugby and cricket. I had to think about the skill theme I was teaching in relation to movement concepts. Movement concepts regard how a skill is performed, for example, throwing backwards and forwards. The skill theme in this case is throwing, but the movement concept is backwards and forwards. My lessons could not simply consist of the throwing and catching skill themes in isolation, as it isn't possible to teach a skill theme without including a movement concept. To develop my lesson plans, I use Graham's movement analysis framework, otherwise known as the wheel. The wheel shows how movement concepts and skill themes work together. The movement concepts and skill themes are represented by 5 concentric circles that make up the wheel. The wheel rotates so that the same movement concept can be used to enhance the development of multiple skill themes. For example, the movement concept of fast can be applied to the skills of travelling, dribbling, or others. When developing lesson plans, I used the wheel to modify or enrich the throwing and catching skill themes that I was teaching. This helped me to achieve differentiated plans that had an effective range of throwing and catching activities. To appropriately plan lessons, I needed to be confident in my subject knowledge and perceptive in my assessment of children's fundamental movement and skill ability. Graham's progression spiral helped me with this. The progression spiral outlines the content within the skill theme and breaks it down into 4 developmental stages. The easiest level is the pre-control level, then control, followed by utilisation, and ending with the most complex developmental stage, the proficiency level. These levels were extremely helpful when developing lesson plans and assessing the level of children's development. The progression spiral also acted as a visual reminder for me that children need to revisit tasks to enhance skill acquisition and retention, and that skills are best learnt when they are presented in a progression. To formatively assess children, I outlined the developmental levels for each lesson's learning intention, so that I could clearly and efficiently evaluate children's generic level of skill proficiency for each lesson. This is helpful for adjusting future lessons, as it clearly indicates who will need support, further intervention, or more challenge. I also plan to assess children's understanding through effective questioning. Effective questioning is necessary to grasp if children recognise how their bodies feel when they are active, if they can understand the rules of a game, and to observe if they can use appropriate vocabulary to describe what they and others are doing. To maximise the involvement and commitment from every pupil in my class, it is essential that I provided the opportunity for each child to feel competent, connected, and confident. With these 3 needs met, children are more likely to show a strong commitment to the activity, a willingness to learn, and greater strength of character. Conversely, if these needs are not met, it will undermine the individual's participation in the activity. I was aware that someone who feels incapable, excluded, useless, or controlled is unlikely to be an enthusiastic participant. It was my responsibility to make sure that lessons were barrier-free and met the diverse needs of my students. To do this, I used the pick up and prize step concept to aid my planning and teaching. In each PE lesson, I made sure to have considered each of the sections in the table. Some of the ways I planned this were by considering Graham's progression spiral to adjust activities according to children's developmental level, and by varying how I grouped pupils. At times I planned mixed ability groups so that more knowledgeable others could model to their peers, and at other times I grouped based on ability level so that the more able children could be challenged. I had several critical decisions to make in order to positively impact my pupils. In my class I have a pupil with special educational needs who struggles with fine motor skills. It was imperative that he felt included. To help him access the physical education lessons, I planned 15-minute daily interventions to help him improve his fine motor skills. I also plan to adapt the equipment being used to help him access the same learning as the rest of the class. And I made use of my teaching assistant so that extra support could be provided to pupils with SEN and others who struggled with their fundamental movement skills. In my class, I also have a pupil with English as an additional language. Physical education gives him an opportunity to thrive when unhindered by the task of writing and reading English, which really positively affects his confidence. To enable him to be confident when verbally contributing to PE lessons, I planned to teach him the keywords that we would be using that day before the lesson started. An additional decision I made was regards to resourcing and timing. With multiple activities and stations in one lesson, a lot of time can be wasted organising resources. I decided to create carousels of activities so that stations would be ready and learning time would not be wasted. This meant that children could practice the skill theme with varied movement concepts. I also planned for my teaching assistant to help manage different activities. Despite being unable to teach my midterm physical education plan, I could clearly envision the learning journey that the children would take. Graham's pedagogy, along with others, was influential when planning the children's learning journey. It helped me understand the importance of physical education and its key concepts, plan lessons that focus on fundamental movement skills using the skill theme, movement concept and progression spiral theories, and assess pupils using the generic level of skill proficiency. To surmise, it is evident that physical education holds the potential to significantly impact the education and development of children. To unlock this potential, I need to develop an intuitive understanding of the children I work with through progressive, developmentally appropriate planning, inclusive teaching, and perceptive assessment. It is important that I provide authentic learning experiences for every child to build the foundations for future learning and a lifetime of physical activity.